Hey everyone. So today we're going to be looking at, will your spouse be spiritual in nature or more materialistic in nature? Will they prefer things like meditation and discovering the spiritual topics such as astral traveling and the other universes and other dimensions that exist? What happens after death? Will they be more interested in topics like that, even occult topics, like astrology or tarot card reading? Or will they prefer more materialistic things? Like, will they only focus on things like getting a really nice house, or getting the most expensive, luxurious cars, or getting really nice jewelry, things like nice earrings or like chains to wear? Are they only interested in making a lot of money in life? So we're going to be looking at these topics today. Now, if you want to know everything about your spouse, right now is the best time to book a consultation with us because in the description, you'll find a coupon code where you could get 15% off of any consultation on our website. Uh, but this coupon code expires October 2nd of 2025. So try to get your consultation in before that October 2nd, if you're planning to. Okay. So more with this technique. Also, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Uh, more with this technique. What we're going to do, we're going to look at all the planets that are in the seventh house because every planet has a side that's either more materialistic or more spiritual in nature here. So we're going to go through all the planets placed in the seventh house in different signs to see what the result will be. So let's start off here with Sun. So if Sun is placed in the seventh house, so Sun here, this is the king that's placed in your seventh house here. So the king generally throughout his life, he has to focus more on the materialistic things. The king, uh, the king usually only develops more spiritual aspects later on in life. So actually, your spouse, this is a bit more materialistic in nature, but this is out of duty and not, it may not be out of preference, but out of duty, this person is a bit more materialistic and looks at um like their focus will be on maintaining the house and maintaining the family, maintaining each other, you and the spouse. So that's where their priority will land. However, this sun behaves very differently in different signs. And generally, this sun is more materialistic in almost every sign, with the exception of two. Sun becomes a bit more spiritual in nature in the signs of Scorpio, where in this sign, the sun starts to get a bit more of the interest in the world that exists beyond what we see. So here they become more interested in occult topics, things like tarot card reading, astrology, even they even get interested in things like they can get interested in things like tantra, yantras, mantras, things like this. They could get interested in those type of things and the energetics of our world, like the hidden sciences that exist. And the other one that's very, very prominent, where the sun can act very spiritual, is in the sign of Pisces. So I've seen in this because you see the king himself is very material, like has to focus on the materialistic parts in the world because he has a whole kingdom to rule. So he has almost no choice until the end of his life, which represents Pisces. So you'll see here that this is the combination where they act more spiritual and that they're interested in those things like what happens after life. Because this is the king near the end of his life and he starts thinking about those things. What happens in the afterlife? What happens to your soul after it leaves the body? You know, um, have you done the good deeds? Is there any atonement that needs to happen? Where does the soul go after this? and what will be like your next birth? Like, where's your destination after? So that's where Sun thinks in Pisces. Now, in other signs, he does think more materialistically. Uh, and again, it depends on the sign here. So, um, because the sun is always trying to maintain and to look after these things, because he has a duty to maintain and to focus and make sure that there are resources. So, let's say sun in Gemini, then here he make the your spouse will make sure that this is very materialistic, but they make sure that all the paperwork, all the forms, all the things are signed and taken care of. All the taxes are paid. All the bills are paid here. All of those things. So here that's like the focus here that they try to. It's materialistic, but they make sure that these things are paid. They also focus a bit more on hobbies and things here. If the sun is in let's say Taurus, here it's a bit more materialistic because here their focus is always on wealth. Do we have enough money to sustain the house and family? Do we have enough food to sustain the family? Um, so here it's a bit more materialistic. Even in a sign of let's say Capricorn, uh, here the sun thinks more of I need to work. What more can I do to have this or that happen? Like I need to, work hard so that I get things done, so that things progress. That I need to set this foundation for everybody to I need to build a foundation for everybody to stand on here. So almost in every single sign, the sun has a different agenda, but they're more materialistic unless sun is in that Pisces or Scorpio sign. Uh, the other exceptions are if sun is with Ketu here. This also makes a spiritual person because here there's big focus, especially if this Ketu is in close conjunctions with the sun. Then this person starts to be more spiritual in nature and starts to think very heavily about like the soul and the destination of the soul and what really is your soul and what is your higher self and starts to think more about those kind of questions. Um, it also works if K2 aspects Sun, but this conjunction of Sun makes a person more spiritual in nature. It'll make your spouse more spiritual. The one other combination is Jupiter, um, but it also depends on the sign here. So in water signs, in any water sign, then this will make a very spiritual person here, where they're focused and they'll say that okay, the progress that we need to be making isn't about working hard or about maintaining this house, but the work that we need to do is to work on our spiritual development here. Um, so yeah. That's sun. Let's go to moon. So moon as well. Moon in seventh house makes your spouse also materialistic in nature. Because um, moon here is not a spiritual planet by default. So naturally, moon here thinks about the materialistic things and more so thinks about the resources. Do we have the money to support the family? Do we have the food? Do we have all the resources that are necessary to provide our family? Like, do we have diapers for our kids? Do we have clothes for them? Do we have, do we even have things like the proper toys and things to uh, provide our children with a good childhood? So, like, these are the thoughts that naturally occur with Moon here, and this is where their priority is. Um, You'll see though, so again, it kind of depends on the sign that moon is in. So, if let's say if moon is in Aquarius. So here the person thinks, okay, am I making enough money at work so that I could support the family here, so that I could have the resources? Am I making the money so that I could afford the resources that are needed for the family here? So moon here is all about the resources and making sure that you have enough. Uh, and it has that motherly vibe where, you know, it's not necessary to have like the luxuries, but you just want to make sure that you have the necessities to raise a family and raise like all the things that come with it, the house and um, the house and the kids and the family here. So here, that's the thought there. Though in the sign of Gemini or even Libra here they become a lot more materialistic and thinking, how can I make more money? How could I make more sales? How could I do some side hustles to get me more money here? So uh, in the signs of in the air signs of Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, it's a lot more like business minded and very materialistic minded. It's all about making that money and how can I make those profits. Um, Now, Moon can be spiritual, and in those cases where Moon is spiritual, will be where Moon is in Scorpio, Pisces, or even if Moon is aspected by either Ketu or Jupiter, or conjunct, either conjunct here with Ketu or conjunct with Jupiter. Because you see, Moon is a bit more is more easily influenced than Sun. Because Sun required to be conjunct with Ketu and Jupiter to make it like fully spiritual. But Moon is a bit more easily influenced. So Jupiter could even aspect this Moon and it'll make somebody more spiritual. Like K2 could also aspect from over here and it'll make Moon more spiritual in nature as well. Um, so in which cases, you'll see here that when Moon becomes a bit more spiritual, they'll think about things like controlling their mind. So let's say again, if K2 is with Moon or Moon is in Scorpio, here the big thought is tr being able to control your mind and so that your mind doesn't run off. So here the person will do heavy meditations. Um, Meditations to like really calm down the mind so that you don't think about the negative thoughts and so that you don't think about the weight of the world here. So that's what the effect of K2 is. This also happens as well if Saturn aspects or is conjunct with Moon. So in the situations where Moon is conjunct with Saturn here, it can make a spiritual person, but in a spiritual sign, more so in any of the water signs, or even in Jupiter signs here. So even in Sagittarius, this makes a person think more philosophically about life. And so that they're not just thinking about the materialistic part of life here. Um, so yeah, those are some combinations where Moon starts to think more spiritually. And actually a really great combination, this is a combination that I really like, is when Moon is in Pisces, because here the person becomes so spiritual and they start to do practices like breath work and breath work and meditation so that they could raise their energy so that they get to a higher state. And at this point, they elevate themselves to higher states in life and higher energetic states where they think about the things like where they could achieve things uh like like the bliss of meditation, for example. And here they do think about like things like the higher soul. They'll do meditation so that they can connect to your higher self and to your spirit self. Um, so yeah, those are the cases where it's a bit more spiritual in nature, with Moon. So let's say that let's go on to Mercury. Okay. Oh no, not Mercury. Let's go on to Mars. Okay. So Mars here. This is a very materialistic planet to have here. And it's more often than not, this will make your spouse very materialistic, and but in the sense of um they're not aiming for money per se. What they're actually aiming for is to make their body stronger. Like here they have like a big like a lot of vanity with their body and making themselves look good here. So it's not materialistic in that sense, but they're very attached to their body and their physique here. And that's why they take so good care of their body. That's why they exercise or do yoga, depending on the sign. Uh, they do those kind of things, and they even eat well too. It's to maintain their body and to make sure their body is strong. Um, so this is how uh, this is how they're more materialistic. It's a very different way than Moon so far, and it'll be a very different way than uh, Sun and Mercury, for example, which are other like materialistic planets here. So Mars is really not looking for those things um like the wealth and food, and like they're not looking for good quality food. They're not looking for like the best um they're not even looking for like the best house, but these people are also looking for so their body is one thing, but they're also looking to acquire land. So this is the one thing that these guys are very materialistically searching for is land, because these people will always want to invest in some type of real estate opportunity or some opportunity to acquire some land or to rent some land, something like this. These people will always be very interested in those type of opportunities. Um, and they will constantly talk about it too. It'll always be in the back of their mind. Uh, if they if they have Mars here, that they'll always want to invest in property or rent in things like Airbnbs or things like that. Even rent like a condo, for example. So it's materialistic in a very different way, and they're very much attached to their body. Like these people do not like they're afraid of death in certain signs. Well, actually, in most signs, like because these people are very much they don't want to think about like old age and that type of thing. So they're very much cling on um to their life there. Now, this isn't a bad thing at all, right? Like out because that they're so focused on their body, like they'll be very healthy. And that's a good thing, right? I mean, that's one less worry because that's how a lot of people, have complications is that later on in life they're not healthy and then they get things like diabetes or arthritis or whatever other kind of health problem. So these people are a lot less prone to it because they're more focused on their body. So in a sense, this kind of like this helps them materialistically because they'll do well in those areas. Now, the times where this Mars could be spiritual, and it's in very specific combinations, is when they're like Ketu is conjunct with Mars, but Jupiter also has to aspect this. Jupiter either has to be conjunct or aspecting this Mars for your spouse to be spiritual. And then in that case, what happens, this could also be like if K2, like if it's just K2 Mars, if they're in any Jupiter signs like Sagittarius or Pisces, uh, or if it's the other way, if Jupiter is here, then in the sign of Scorpio. These are the ways that this person becomes spiritual here, with the double effect of K2 and Jupiter. Because it takes a lot more for this person to kind of let go of the earthly attachments and to kind of let the spirit go, because Mars is the planet that really he's Mars is the son of the earth, is the in Sanskrit is called Bhumiputra. So it's literally born of the earth and it shows that earthly connection. So it requires a lot more planets here to make this person spiritual. And even when it does become spiritual, the way that they become spiritual is by learning yoga. And so by learning yoga, because still they do a physical activity to make sure that they are advancing spiritually, right? So that's the effect of Mars. So they'll do yoga to really uplift themselves and to get to that spiritual state. Because this is another path. There's not just one path to spirituality, and Mars has his own way. It's through yoga and through learning through the body how you're connected to the entire universe, which is true. You'll even read this in the like Srimad Bhagavatam. You'll read like how the body is actually just a physical representation of the entire universe itself, and it is an encapsulation of the entire universe. Like our the hairs on our body actually represent the trees that exist on this earth and in the universe. So that's how the person will connect more through their body and through things like yoga. Um, yeah. So now let's go to Mercury. Now, this is another planet that is very materialistic in nature, but Mercury's interesting because he could easily play like both roles. He could play the materialistic nature extremely well and can also play the spiritual nature very well. And that's because Mercury naturally has a dual energy with it's like a dual energy in his nature. So Mercury naturally can play both roles, and it really does depend on conjunctions and signs and aspects on this Mercury. So I guess let's start off with the materialistic side. So this Mercury becomes materialistic with any signs that are not Jupiter or Ketu signs. So any of the signs like the one to seven, and even in Capricorn and Aquarius as well. Uh, this Mercury becomes very materialistic. So you'll see in signs like 3, 7, and 11, 3, 7, and 11 here. This Mercury is very materialistic, but does it very well because you see that they'll focus on here, he'll focus so much on making money and like through business and through like different means, like even through stocks and through like side hustles here. Um, so Mercury will do that and do it very well here. And they'll be very, very much focused on earning this money. Like every day they're going to wake up, check the stock market very diligently, check how their business is doing, check how much money that they're making, check their paycheck right away. Uh, so they'll do it and it's in a good way because they are like they will like lead to more money here. But that's where the focus is on making money, even on in earthy signs as well. So in 6 and 10 as well, Mercury is a lot more grounded and thinks about not about just making money, but thinks about how can we sustain ourselves. What do we need to be able to make it by? So in these signs here, Mercury is like he'll say, okay, well, we need more money to sustain ourselves, so let me go work more. I need to be putting in more work and then more effort into my work here. Um, and Mercury's a lot more practical in these signs. So Mercury will do the hands-on work to get things done. But yeah, here Mercury's a lot more um, uh, materialistic in nature. Like especially in Capricorn, Mercury will think about, okay, I need to be working more to earn all this money. So he'll be thinking very much about work. How can I improve in work? How can I make more money at work? How can I learn more and get better at my job? So very materialistic in those type of ways. Now again, it's not a bad thing because they're bettering themselves, right? So not a single thing that I mention here will be bad. Um, Now, in the places where Mercury starts to become more spiritual in nature are in the signs of Scorpio, Pisces. So even when Mercury is debilitated and aspected by Ketu, K2 and Jupiter, even an aspect of K2 and Jupiter, like even if K2's here, this is still strong enough to sway Mercury into being a bit more spiritual in nature. Same thing, even Jupiter doesn't need to be conjunct with Mercury, but can influence Mercury to be more spiritual. Even if Mercury's in signs like 9, 12, 8, even in the sign of Cancer here, can make Mercury a bit more spiritual in nature. So those are situations where Mercury are a bit more spiritual, and it does change in different situations. So in Scorpio, then Mercury becomes a bit more interested in learning occult topics, and they'll like to read books about these things, about energetics and like our aura fields and our energetic fields and how it interacts, like things with learning about grounding, those type of things, those type of occult topics. Mercury will, your spouse will read about or like to watch TV shows about. Um, in the sign of Pisces here, Mercury becomes very spiritual in nature. I know that Mercury's debilitated, but here, Mercury starts to learn about those spiritual topics of astral traveling and um, like what happens after death, like thinking about those things like all the good and bad that you've done. And here it's a little bit of a different spiritual process than the other planets because here your spouse will read up about those topics. They may not be so practical in their hands, but they'll read about those topics about where does their soul go after death? What are the different dimensions? They'll read about these things. They may not do the meditation to do it unless K2 and Jupiter also aspect this, but just Mercury alone in Pisces here will make them read about these topics or watch TV shows or documentaries about these kind of things. Um, yeah, only with the help of Jupiter and Ketu does Mercury then start to do like more applied things, like starts trying these things out, like implementing these things in everyday life. Like to become more spiritual, they'll do the breath work, they'll do the meditation, they'll do the like they'll eat like different foods. Um, and actually, even if Saturn is with Mercury in either the signs of any of those signs that I mentioned, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Pisces, even in those signs, then this person as well starts to become more practical and not just reads about these things, but reads plus implements. So yeah, let's move on. That's Mercury. Let's go into Venus. Now, Venus is also another good planet where I would say it's like 75% materialistic, but can also play the spiritual side extremely well. Okay, I would say a bit more like 60 to 70% materialistic because Venus plays both sides so well. Like the materialistic side he could play because Venus itself is the guru for the demons. And so knows how like Venus knows how to give these materialistic pleasures to people. And actually, even all the things that Venus stands for is the materialistic sides. But being a spiritual guru as well, and just being a guru in general, and being a saint, Venus knows how to do the spiritual side extremely well. So this could play both sides very well, but whichever side he's playing, Venus will do it very well and to such a good perfection as well. So you really can't go wrong here. Like, I mean, unless this Venus is absolutely getting annihilated by like all the wrong malefics, uh, like it'll do very well here in either side. So let's say if you place Venus in, let's say Taurus. Now your spouse becomes very materialistic oriented in having money. They really want to have money and not just have like money just for necessities, but they want to go above and beyond and have money so that they could really like um, spend on all the things that they desire, all like the even the things that aren't necessary, like yeah, like putting wallpaper on the wall, or like painting your house like every summer or something, or even getting like a vase with like some flowers in it. I mean, there's no point where that's ever necessary, but these people like to have the money so they could spend on these type of things here. And so your spells here would be more focused on the comforts in life and having the luxuries in life. Um, even in here in the sign of Cancer, so your spells becomes a lot more lazy in nature here, and still very materialistic. All that they want is just to lead a life that's more relaxing so that they could go on vacations. They want to have all the riches in life, and they want to do it so that later on they could go on all these vacations and have all the fun, and they want to be able to retire early on in age. So these are the materialistic thoughts that they're having. They're not really thinking about, okay, let me do all this stuff so that I could be spiritual. They're more so thinking about, let me do all this stuff so I could really have an easygoing life later on, and hopefully even have an easygoing life right now. Um, so yeah, um, even in signs of like Capricorn, earthy signs, uh, you'll see that your spouse will be more materialistic in the sense that they want to get better at their job, and they want to earn the money from their job as well. So here they'll try to learn and try to get better at their job so that they could ultimately earn more here. So yeah, so that's where Venus is a bit more materialistic in nature. Even conjunct with planets such as Mercury, uh, Sun, uh, Saturn, um, all of these planets will make Venus a bit more materialistic in nature here. Even especially Rahu. Like Rahu, 100%, even in the sign of Aquarius, makes her spells very materialistic, but very successful as well in materialistic terms. Now, Venus becomes very spiritual in the spiritual science and religious science of 9, 12, and Scorpio. These are signs where Venus starts to behave more spiritual in nature and has a bit more of a spiritual edge. Now, Venus acts a little very differently in these signs compared to other planets. Like here, Venus wants to learn the here Venus can learn a lot of the black magic kind of things and black magic kind of tricks or tantra techniques, and is very interested about in that type of world. Things about like spells that people used to cast. Like they would be interested even in TV shows that, if you guys know like those, like you know how a lot of animes kind of have a focus on like spell casting, like even things like as simple as Yu-Gi-Oh! It's all about cards that cast spells. Uh, or even things like I think it's like Demon Slayer and and I don't yeah, I think like Demon Slayer and Full Metal Alchemist. It's all about like spell casting and doing things like that. They'd have a very intense like love and passion for this. And again, it's not a bad thing. Like they're not out to harm people with this. They have an interest in this, and they're like, oh, here's a spell I can make more money. Let me try this. Here's a tantra technique. Here's like a spell pouch, like a talisman that they could have to like boost their luck, or like they'd have interest in those type of things. They're also very much interested in things like rebirth and what is that thing when they bring people back from the dead? Not reincarnation, but like when a person has died, but then immediately are brought back to life in the same body, like that type of thing. They're very interested in those type of topics and ideas, and these type of things fascinate them. So the spiritual side, but it's more of an occult type of thing that they're longing for. And this is a very like no other planet does it like how Venus does here. Um, in Pisces, they become more spiritual, but in a very different way than other planets because here they become more spiritual by cleansing their aura. And I've done a lot of testing and I've seen a lot of people where they exalted Venus here. They they cleanse their like they're very interested in being very clean and cleansing their aura so that they could have the best type of energy here. So they they're interested in the spiritual energetics and spiritual exchanges of energy here because they don't want to wear clothes that will lower their energy. Like they don't want to look like a homeless person, for example, or look very, they want to wear clothes that like because you know how wearing certain clothes brightens up like your energy or really changes like your vibe or how you look. These people want to change their energy by doing things like this, changing the way that they look, putting on different makeup, smelling different because it completely changes your vibe here. And so that's like a spiritual aspect here. They are also interested in things like, other dimensions uh and like your soul, but they're very cautious and they really try to take care of their soul and their aura to make sure that they're protected. Like they do not like to shake people's hands, especially strangers, and they like to be clean because they're cleaning and keeping their aura safe. This is also true. You see, if K2 aspects or if Jupiter is conjunct here, now they start to become more spiritual and very heavily involved with those spiritual topics. Uh, and they get very applied in it too. Like they'll actually, any spiritual thing that they learn, such as astral travel, they'll actually try it out. And they'll try the techniques and they'll take classes as well to try and learn it if Jupiter is conjunct or even if Jupiter aspects. Then it starts to become a bit more practical where they try it out. So yeah. Um, so that's Venus. Move on to Jupiter. Now, naturally, your spouse here will be a bit more religious and spiritually inclined. And this goes for Jupiter in any signs here. Um, so yeah, naturally they have a more of an inclination to that side, but he can be a bit more materialistic, but this requires more materialistic signs and more materialistic planets to be here. So if the let's say if this Jupiter is in earthy signs, 2, 6, or 10, like even here Jupiter is debilitated. Um, which is why Jupiter is kind of like even when Jupiter's debilitated, like he's not playing to his strengths because Jupiter's naturally spiritual and uh religious person. So in the sign of Capricorn, it's more materialistic, which is why Jupiter struggles a little bit in the sign in terms of spirituality or religiousness as well. But you see in these signs, now Jupiter starts to become a bit more materialistic and um, it kind of depends on which one of these signs. If in the sign of Taurus, this person starts to look at a bit more money, like starts to become a bit more interested in things like money and resources, but not just like this. Jupiter has to be conjunct with another materialistic planet or aspected by a materialistic planet, such as be here with Mercury or Venus. Even yeah, even Moon as well can make this Jupiter. Any one of these planets conjunct with Jupiter will make it more materialistic, or Rahu, especially Rahu and Saturn. You see, any one of these planets will make Jupiter more oriented to materialistic things in nature. But again, it's kind of like you really have to try hard to make this Jupiter not spiritual or religious in nature. Like there requires multiple, like more than one planet and and as well as a materialistic sign here. So. Yeah. You see, let's talk about Jupiter debilitated, because here now Jupiter doesn't become as spiritually involved, but you see, Jupiter could be easily tipped back if aspected by something like Ketu. Then Jupiter would be or even if Jupiter is conjunct with the 12th Lord or 8th Lord, then Jupiter instantly kind of goes back to spiritual nature. So let's say if Jupiter is, yeah, in the sign of Capricorn here, Jupiter does try to, your spouse will think about like their career, and that will be a very big part of their life. But here they're trying to learn, uh, still has this like a religious or spiritual side because they're trying to learn the life lesson that comes from all their obstacles that come in their work or their career. So still they're trying to look at the spiritual side of spiritual upliftment because everything happens for good, and they're trying to see the good that comes from all the obstacles that they have in their career and in their work. Um, so and same thing even goes here. Like even if Jupiter's in Aquarius, another materialistic sign, even with money, they're still trying to, like they'll earn money, and actually your spouse will earn a lot of money from this type of combination, and just naturally too. Like they're not even really trying to earn money, just whatever they do, they'll be able to earn money very well, which is kind of nice to be honest. But um, you'll see that they're also learning how they're learning a lot of spiritual life lessons from their income and how they're earning money. They're saying like, okay, well, I'm at this point where I've earned so much money and it's just coming easily. Like, what's the next step in life? Like, how does this money make me a better person? So they have their way of learning it and upgrading themselves from the experiences that they get with income. And now, if you put Jupiter in any water sign, or even in his own sign, Jupiter becomes extra spiritual in nature. And well, here in Sagittarius becomes extra religious and a little less bonded to the materialistic side. So in these sides, he like let's say here becomes very religious and likes to be a bit more detached from materialistic gains because he'll learn from the scriptures that the you should be a bit more detached so you could focus on God. And so that's the type of thing that he'll think about here. Even when he does prayers to God as well, your spouse isn't looking for like material gains all the time. They're actually looking for like, you know, uplift me, like remove my sins and make my energy better. This is really at the core of it what they're looking for. And definitely in spiritual signs, then, in any water sign or even aspected by Ketu, even aspected by Saturn, will make this person a little bit spiritual in nature because you see Jupiter, Saturn, here they think about what is the meaning of life? And here they have a bit more of uh they have a bit more of a different relation with their materialistic side because they know what works and what doesn't work, and they could tell what feels right and what doesn't feel right, even with the materialistic side. So they know, like, okay, will this actually, even if I am headed in this materialistic way, will this really uplift me? So here they do think about the philosophical ways, and Saturn, Jupiter, they do think a lot. It does take them time in life, not from childhood, but if Saturn aspects or is conjunct with Jupiter, it later on it makes them think more about life and it makes them do meditation, and especially they'll like to have those like stones and crystals, like gemstones around them. Things like having quartz or having moonstones, things like that, even jade. They like thinking about like using these to augment their spiritual life. So yeah. It's Jupiter. Now, speaking of Saturn, let's move on to Saturn. So, Saturn here also kind of plays both roles, but is a bit more naturally materialistic, but can play the spiritual role in certain conditions. So, Saturn here really, in whatever sign, he's really thinking about is this enough? Is this enough for me to get by? Like here uh they're thinking about the necessities in life. So let's say let's say in Taurus. So Saturn in Taurus, he's in a friendly sign and he's thinking here, okay, do I have the food to survive here? I may not have a lot of food. Maybe I might have to cut down on meals, but do I have enough to survive and make it through? So your spouse is thinking about the basic necessities here and will ask the questions as well. Even days in advance, even like a week in advance, will I have enough food for next week? Will I have enough food for next month? As well, he thinks about like your spouse will think about, will I have enough money to get me through this entire month to pay all the bills? Like that's how their thinking is do I have the absolute minimum to get by with this or that thing? And let's say here, they're thinking about do I have enough to shelter me for this month? Do I have enough money to pay the mortgage for this month? Um, they even here they also can start asking a bit more philosophical questions and such as am I actually happy in life? This also happens if Saturn is conjunct Moon. They think about those questions like am I really happy? Where I am currently in life, am I really happy? And it makes them start to think about the gratitude in life in the like they start to become a bit more grateful for all the small things such as like even having a hot shower. Like hot showers didn't exist in the time of your great grandparents like even like 60 70 years ago hot showers didn't exist and they start to be a bit more grateful these for the luxuries that everybody else takes for granted. That's how they're thinking. And so their philosophical life as well, and this kind of goes well, just with Saturn here, they start to be grateful for the things that nobody else is grateful for. And this makes them a more philosophical person in life because they have a different perspective here. Like they say, I'm very grateful for like I'm very grateful that I'm able to uh, drive to work. I have a vehicle to get to work. And, a lot of people are like, okay, some people say, I don't even like going to work, but they would say that, they like, I don't really care that I have this car because I'm using it to get to a job that I hate. But Saturn here makes you think like, okay, I'm, you know, I may not like this job, but I'm really glad that at this moment I have this and that thing. So it's, I would say it's a bit more, Saturn here could be a bit more philosophical. That's the sense of spirituality that they have. That's they think of it in a more philosophical way. And why am I really here? And what is my purpose in life? And do I really need all of these other things here? Like they don't mind like being detached. Though they would be detached if in signs of Jupiter signs, Scorpio, Pisces, aspected by Ketu or Jupiter, then they'd be a bit more detached in nature. Um, so yeah, even let's say um in Saturn's own sign here. Saturn starts to think like, I'm working very hard. I definitely hate like they say that they definitely hate their job. It's a very, boring job and very repetitive. But they are grateful that they have it, and they say, okay, I gotta work hard, and they start to think about, you know, things like, why am I, well, they'll think about this later on in life. Why am I really working so hard? What was the benefit from all of this? So yeah, that's Saturn, more philosophical uh in that way. So two more Rahu, let's start with Rahu here. So I mean, this one is kind of, this is 100% like materialistic, and this is like Rahu and Ketu are like min-maxed planets here in that sense, because Rahu is 100% materialistic, and it's no matter what you do, this Rahu will not be spiritual here. Or it can be, but like all the stars have to align to do that. Like every spiritual planet, Jupiter has to be involved, Pisces has to be involved. Um, um, yeah, like this, so Rahu is not naturally, and even Rahu does not do well in these spiritual signs either. Rahu doesn't do well in Scorpio or in doesn't do well in Scorpio or in Sagittarius or in Pisces. Rahu is actually considered weakest here, and that's because Rahu by nature is not spiritual and by nature here. So, uh, no matter where Rahu is placed, he'll be materialistic, but that depends on the sign here. So let's say if in Aquarius, your spouse will be obsessed with earning money and being like a millionaire and billionaire and making as much profits and putting things into savings accounts so that your money doubles and triples. They even like look at like things like what are different like money schemes that they could do to like triple your money or double your money in like a year. So very much looking at money there. Here, even let's say Rahu in sign of Leo, here they really want to get a position of power, and this is what they're obsessed with and really uh, looking forward to. So getting that position of power and having this dominance over other people, like being able to command other people, is really what this person wants to do. And that's what they're materialistically focused on. Now, let's say, uh, yeah, so that's where the focus of Rahu shifts. Now, let's say, I would say the most spiritual out of this is like in Scorpio, where here they start thinking about, they definitely do some type of tantra here, tantra, black magic, and spell casting. They definitely do it, and they're very interested in that type of things. But even again, it's to get materialistic gains. Like they'll do things like, okay, let me do this money spell so that I can get more money. Um, Let me do this so my boss will stop harassing me. Like, so you see, like they'll look into those occult things, but to get a material benefit out of it. Um, yeah, but they will dabble in that side. And even if Rahu is conjunct with Jupiter, still this does like Rahu will start to twist the spiritual and religious side of Jupiter. So it does not really make much of a spiritual person there. They'd be interested in like they would say, okay, what kind of pujas or what kind of religious thing that you could do to earn more money. Oh, here's like a Lakshmi puja that I could do to get more money. Uh, that's how they'll think about it. So yeah. Um, so that's Rahu, very maxed out materialistic planet. So let's go on to Ketu, which is the exact opposite. Is this is maxed out in terms of spirituality. This is like Ketu does not like it is so hard to make this Ketu materialistic in nature. Like even you could put it in the most materialistic sign in conjunct with every single materialistic planet, which there's quite a lot. as we've seen. Like you could put this, let's say, in Capricorn, very materialistic, with Saturn itself and Mercury and Venus and Moon, all the materialistic planets here, and still this Ketu, like still your spouse. Uh, okay, I know this is a little extreme, but they might still have a material or spiritual side to them. Like this K2 will transform all these other planets to be a bit more spiritual in that sense. Like they'll earn money or work in a spiritual way. So actually, that's something that I kind of want to add here. So let's say K2 in 10th and Capricorn, or even aspected by Saturn, like Saturn's here, or Saturn's here. You know what this person will do? He'll follow the stuff that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, the Karma Yoga, where they work all their karma and all their actions that they're doing, they're delivering the results to the Lord anyways, and to like the spiritual world. So they're still working for spiritual gain and for spiritual profit here. Um, even so, even here, spiritually, even in like this is another very materialistic sign, Taurus. Even still, like their money, like they're not attached to their money at all. They're like they'll just say like, "Oh, I really don't need money," because I they would say that they're always protected. Like nothing bad will happen, even if they're homeless, even like money is not a required thing, maybe materialistically, but spiritually like they would say you're an infinite being in that you can't be harmed. So even having money or not having money, it doesn't change anything. So yeah, that's so even in materialistic signs, that's how Ketu will behave. Um, Now, if placed in spiritual signs, now you're kind of maxing this out, where here there Ketu in Scorpio in his own sign is very much attached to or interested, I would say, in seeing the spiritual side of the world and seeing how um like the occult topics is very, very interested in things like the hidden sciences, tantras, and astrology, tarot card reading, these sciences that are like even psychic, like psychic mediums and telepathy and those kind of things. This person is maxed out and interested in learning those things. Um, in terms of in like Pisces, or even aspected by Jupiter, this person will be very much interested in learning what happens to the soul and is very interested in the afterlife and all the dwellings that happen there. And this person prepares themselves by doing deep meditations of the soul, so where they could connect to their own soul to guide them in the for the afterlife and prepare them for what awaits them and prepares them for the next birth. And this honestly, this person is really preparing themselves so that this is their true and final life that they're going to experience. So, a very powerful spiritual combination here, especially if Jupiter aspects in any way, then makes this person very spiritual and very ready for what awaits them in the afterlife. Um, so yeah, that is all the planets in seventh house and how to see if your spouse be more materialistic or more spiritual in nature. Um, if you're unsure, so let's say if you have no planets here, I do want to cover that. So no planets here. Um, make sure to check the sign because the sign will give you a lot of hints here. If it's a more materialistic sign, like any Earth sign 2, 6, 10, or any air sign 3, 3, 7, 11, that's more materialistic in nature because the lords here are very materialistic in nature. Um, and yeah, if it's something like 9, 12, 8, even in some cases, in Cancer, can be a bit more spiritual in nature. But if you're unsure, check out the timestamp for the Lord that's mentioned here. Like if Cancer is here, then check out the timestamp for Moon. So yeah, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe and book a consultation now before the coupon code expires on October 2nd. So yeah, thank you.